Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Kuntal. My name is Anita Kishore. I'm an executive and career coach based in New York City, and it's an honor to present to you today at Pharmacircuit. I wish to thank the organizers for this conference. And as the last talk of the conference, you may be running a bit out of energy. So if you can, maybe grab another coffee or a tea, a chocolate, piece of candy, and be prepared to engage, to type into the chat window. I hope that this is not a one-way lecture. I will spend about 2 minutes to introduce myself, but then I'll shift to a more interactive portion of the talk. So let's get started. So I became an executive coach because I believe in the transformative power of coaching to help individuals achieve their full leadership potential. But that's not at all how I started my career. I began as a scientist, a chemist. I wanted to create the medicines that could help individuals increase access to affordable medicines. I wanted to be the person who created these life-saving molecules. But a bachelor's, master's, and PhD later, I realized that I was better at explaining the science to non-scientists than actually doing the science at the bench. So I built my career in business through management consulting, international pharmaceutical companies, and NGOs. And I found a lot of excitement in expanding access to medicines through business negotiations. But along the way, I was exposed to executive coaching while I was at Sandoz, where I met our organizers, a division of Novartis, and I was quite intrigued. So many years later, I've traded in strategic planning for pharma to help individuals achieve their maximum leadership potential. I enjoy my work because it allows me to have fascinating conversations and create extraordinary connections with people. So you may be thinking, what on earth does this have to do with building one's strategic network online? Everything. I'm very lucky that in my career, which has allowed me to work remotely for over 7 years, that I can have deep conversations with people every single day. So in the remaining time, I'll share with you some of my techniques to build meaningful conversations, and we'll have a little bit of a chance to practice these conversations to allow you to build and expand your own network online. So what does networking mean to you? This is hardly an unfamiliar topic to you all as business development professionals. So what does it mean for you? So my first question, and if I encourage you to type your answers into the chat window. Before COVID-19, what did networking mean to you? So I'm going to look into the chat to see if you can type any answers here. All right. Feel free to type away. Handshakes, yes. Handshakes, probably sitting in live places, travel, talking to people face to face. Any other things about networking before COVID-19? All right. So now, what does networking mean to you today during COVID-19? Great, we have some answers in the chat window. Personal meetings, trust building, going to network events was probably something that we did before. And now, in the age of the pandemic, a whole lot of Zooms. It's really nice, by the way, to have a new platform to engage through this conference, to try something new, right? So look, of course it's difficult that we've not really been able to leave our homes to meet friends or colleagues freely these past few months. And now with the second or possibly third wave of increasing COVID-19 cases, and as countries impose some mandatory lockdowns, this way of living and working is going to continue for some time. So one additional question for you. Who finds networking online difficult? Just type into the chat window yes or no. So some people right away say yes. Oh my goodness, our conference organizer is saying even he's finding networking online difficult. And you know, this is not uncommon because we're so used to networking in person that to network online does require a different set of skills. It requires a different way of engaging, which maybe for some very normal and natural, but for some people it can be very, very difficult because it's unfamiliar to what we've previously done. So if I go to my next slide here, for those of you who typed in yes, what do you find difficult about networking online? And for any of you who either typed in no or are silently thinking, this is easy. Perhaps you can share with us some of your suggestions, or what are some of the techniques that you have used to successfully connect with others online. So I'm going to look into the chat. Great. So what makes it networking online difficult? Number one, not seeing the body language of the other person. Really hard when it's just, there's no video, it's just sending messages back and forth. Back in the in-person, in real life days, it was always very difficult. You know, when you were only sending emails, how many times, right, have we crossed wires? Have we had a misunderstanding because we were only sending emails to someone else and we weren't able to hear their voice or to see their body language? The emotional connection behind just that, oh, it's nice to see you. Body language, just being in the presence of someone else. Exactly. So for anybody who does this well, does anybody have any techniques? And I'll save my advice because I'll go into that shortly in a few slides, actually in the next slide. Does anybody have great suggestions or even things that you've tried to network online? As you're thinking about this, what I'll do is I'll start going into my suggestions. Now, we've heard some of the challenges of networking online. We'll go into some suggestions just in a minute. Where can you connect with others online? This is clearly a very international audience, but in some research that I did ahead of this talk, it sounds like LinkedIn is, but far and away, the leading platform, the professional social media platform where professionals, like-minded professionals, can engage online. Of course, other places such as Sing or WeChat or Meetup in the US are places where people can connect online. And additionally, you might be able to look for local groups or local chapters of national or international organizations that used to hold in-person events and see what events they may be hosting online. For example, in New York City, New York Bio, NY Bio has shifted to online breakfast meetings to help the community stay connected. Breakfast is not provided. You must bring your own breakfast, a different form of BYOB. So how can you most effectively engage with someone online? Here's where I will go into a little bit of teaching mode and share with you perhaps some do's and some don'ts, and also some of my personal experiences. So I'll just give you an example. I have over 200 unaccepted invitations in my LinkedIn account right now. But here's why I haven't accepted them. The vast majority have no message. And what I mean is it's just a request to connect. We've all done this, right? Maybe we forgot to type in a message, or it's somebody we know that we just didn't type in a message. But when you have 100 of these messages sitting in your inbox from complete strangers, The reality is that I'm not going to take the time to research all these individuals. I may have met them before through a networking event, either online or in person in the past. Maybe it's somebody I know, but maybe it's not. And when I teach this to LinkedIn etiquette to my students, I find the analogy that I use is sending someone a LinkedIn request message without typing in the message is a bit like someone knocking at your door and asking to be let into your home without introducing themselves. This is how it feels to an introvert. Believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert. And that's where I suggest to individuals to please write a message to connect. So but over 50% of my messages don't have, 50% of my LinkedIn requests don't have a message. So that's not a great way to build a connection online. But now what I'm going to do is share with you some do's and some don'ts. And we'll start with the don'ts. So how I'm going to share with you some of the don'ts, so things that you really shouldn't do using LinkedIn. I'm going to share with you some examples of messages. So yes, about more than half of the requests that I received don't have a message. About half of them do. And some of these messages are pretty terrible. So here are some examples of some messages that I've received. I'll read to you a couple of these and give you the opportunity to read the slide yourself. Hey, Anita. I see that you're in the life coach industry and would love to add you to my network of professionals. If you're open to that, let's connect, Anita. Best, and the person, I've disguised some of these so you can't see the person's name or organization. And some of my favorite are on the bottom right. Hi, Anita, open to connect? That's it. No name, no organization, no reason to have that person in common. So while these are kind of funny, I'm going to go through with you in my teacher mode here with my red pen to share with you just some of the reasons why these messages are a little bit off-putting and I have less interest in engaging with this person. First, hey, Anita. That's a little bit informal and maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I believe that there are some different ways of engaging online versus in person. And with LinkedIn being a professional network, I typically recommend writing dear so-and-so or hello or some kind of introduction. Hey is a bit informal for my taste. The other things that I've circled here are number one, on the left-hand side, the individual identified me as a life coach. There's quite a difference in the coaching community, and I am a career and executive coach. It's in my LinkedIn profile. I'm not a life coach. So the person hasn't done the research on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, this person has sent a very generic very generic message, has put in the name of my company online that says, perhaps we'll have some synergies. Great. But like what? One needs to do the research to help me know what are our synergies. So while these are kind of funny, when you have about 100 of such messages sitting in your inbox, it's sort of, why these individuals don't stand out, or they stand out for their lack of engagement, their lack of research, their lack of the effort to really try and engage online. Now I'm going to show you two examples of messages. One example is a little bit better, and one example wins the gold medal prize. So in this message, this individual said, hi, so nice to find you in the disguised organization women's group. I advocate for women's speech and go back to this organization often to teach public speaking, my website archive, I'd love to connect, kindly, and the person signed her name. Here's why I find this message a little bit better. First, she says, she acknowledges in the greeting, hello, she says hi. She mentions the organization that we have in common. So I know that she's done some research. Again, I've disguised the organization for privacy reasons. And she shares with me what she does. So I know a little bit about her. So this is an example of a little bit better, but I still don't know why I should connect with this person. And here in the last message that I'll share with you is the gold medal prize winner here, Anita, so-and-so, here from this organization club of Metro New York City. I just noticed your previous involvement with said organization. To reconnect with organization, feel free to check out some of the activities of our young and vibrant club, and he provides a website. In any event, let's be in touch. And here's why I found this message to be a strong message. This person introduces himself with respect to this particular organization. He's identified that we have that point in common. He gives me the website that I can check out. It's something that I've been involved with in the past. So maybe there's a possibility I'd be interested in the future. And he says, in any event, let's be in touch. So he's not forcing me to engage just because of this organization. So I quite liked this message. And in fact, I even responded to him this week to tell him that I loved his message so much I was going to use it in an example of a presentation, and he was quite happy. He was quite pleased with that. So how can you most effectively use LinkedIn? And I know some of these messages maybe seem a little funny or trivial, but there is a way to engage with others online so that you can try to build or reestablish these meaningful connections. So the first question that I encourage you to think about is, why are you even making this request? You don't have to answer it in the email, but you need to know, what is the intention behind your request? Is it to grow your network? That's nice, but why? You need to go one level deeper. Is it to just have a conversation? Is it to get a job? Is it to sell a product? Whatever the intention is, be sure you are clear before you write that message. One of those don'ts, let's connect. Not really good enough because it's not specific enough. And finally, what is one curious question that you can ask? And I'll go into that in just a minute. So in summary, how can you most effectively use LinkedIn? Well, 1, research the person's profile. Number 2, find a point in common, a profession, a university, a group that you follow. We're all in the biopharma industry, for example. We all attended the Pharmacircuit conference together. 3rd, when requesting a connection, write a message. 4th, personalize that message. Share something about that person's profile that stood out to you. And finally, ask, can we connect? Can we be connected? The second major part of building your online network is about asking great questions. And we're nearly at the end of this talk. So be curious, ask about the other person, and ask for advice. So what do I mean by this? How can you ask great questions? People like to talk about themselves. You ever notice that? So you can do this. You can recreate this experience online. I know it's easier in person, but you can ask good questions even in an online way of engaging. You can ask about the other person's career path. How did they get where they are today? You can ask about their day-to-day responsibilities. You can just ask, what are some of the challenges that you're facing in your job or in your industry during COVID-19? And also, one great way to have a meaningful conversation is to ask for advice. Now, it's helpful if you've had a little bit of a conversation first or some point of engagement before you jump into asking for advice. But these are some ways to start engaging in meaningful conversations. So, in summary, for all of this, before we move into Q&A, how can you build your network online? And I just have 3 closing thoughts. Be curious, do your research, and be authentic. And that's why I say insert your photo here. What are the kinds of things you would want to know about this other person with whom you're engaging online? That's all I have for our suggestions for how to build your strategic network online. But what I invite you to do is to practice. At the bottom here, I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn and to practice some of the suggestions that I've just shared with you in today's talk. I'd be very happy to connect with you. I'd love to see what your message is. If you would like feedback, I'm happy to do that. But ask, just ask, and I look forward to continuing our conversation as you build your online network and hope that you and I can have meaningful conversations from this day going forward. So Kuntal, are there any questions
Thank you.
or anything in the chat?
Yes, sure. So thank you, first of all, Anita, for this great, presentation. I myself have learned a lot. Basically, I was thinking that how to enhance my network because 20,000 is not good enough. I can have much more. But jokes apart, I think you are so right that sometimes if you are not focused on what we are asking, just sending an invite, it most often goes in a wrong way. And I have seen that whenever I send invitation with little bit of a summary, which I can do from my laptop, without using, because from my mobile app, it just goes just like that without giving me the chance to write a short summary like you described. But overall, I think the flow, if you see from morning, I can see the presentation, and I think this is the perfect ending to Pharmacircuit, because Pharmacircuit is all about networking, and all about connecting, with each other, building trust. So I think you pointed out in a very, short time that how to build trust. Trust cannot be made; it can only be built. So thank you for that. I have questions coming in for you. So first one is from Mario. He's asking, have you done business with a person you never met offline?
Yes, thank you for the
Question
question.
for you.
Yes, thank you for the question, Mario. Yes, in fact, with my executive coaching business, I've coached probably several dozens of clients, and I've only met, of all of those 50 plus, somewhere between 50 and 75 clients, I've only met one person in person. So I've been doing this for many years, and even pre-pandemic. So it is possible to conduct business entirely via online. We've never, with 60 plus of these individuals with whom I work, it's only been through either the telephone, exclusively telephone, or through video. It helps to really listen. And sometimes you can hear things in people's voices that they may not be saying out loud in words. But it helps to train oneself to be able to hear these things. But yes, I do most of my business actually globally and without meeting people in person. And it's actually really quite fun when you meet them in person for the first time, and especially if you've only been speaking to them over the phone, and suddenly you meet them and they look totally different than what you might have expected. But it is possible, but it does take some intention to be able to build relationships without meeting them in person.
Okay, very nice. Thank you, Anita. So the second question is, do you think in the context of pharma, long timelines, high investment, that could be possible, in terms of pharmaceutical contacts, how do you look at it?
I think back to my days when I was in Germany and working in a global role, and while I was able to travel to many countries as part of my role, I wasn't able to travel everywhere. And so it takes time to build relationships. It is possible. Even pre-COVID, right? We can't be everywhere at once.
Correct.
So, but it takes time, it takes effort. Again, it takes that intention. And we can talk, there are different ways to engage. One thing that I coach many executives on is how can you engage with the person, not just with the work? So how do you share a little of yourself and invite the person you're speaking to share a little of him or herself.
Oh, very nice. Well explained. So thank you, Anita, for your time today. On behalf of Pharmacircuit, we remain grateful to you.